What up, everyone? This is Adam Quiney, and today I want to talk about a distinction I've kind of been working on. It's a little rough, so we'll see how it flies, but it's the distinction between burying versus buried. And so what the genesis, if you like, of this particular distinction is that we all have stuff that we can't be with. What does that mean? It means there's stuff that we don't want to allow. We don't want to be around it. We don't want to simply be with. And even when we have to be around it, sometimes you've gotta, life doesn't give you the option to escape from something. You have to be with it. We don't allow ourselves to simply be who we naturally are. We've got strategies for getting past this. So we might adopt a phony mask or a persona, where we might be really, one of the ways I do this is I get really logical and really robotic. And there's no real sort of beating heart behind any of that. It just becomes very logical. That's how I deal with like anger or in my judgment, I would call it idiocy or people shooting off. And so typically when we have a relationship to something like that we can't be with, we do one of two things. We bury it within ourselves, because we as humans have the capacity for all of this. We have this same thing. I have the capacity to be incredibly angry as well, even though I can't be with it out there. And so I bury that within myself. And the alternative is that I guess it's not so much two different things we do, but two things that we do that are kind of the same. So I'll bury it within myself, and then when I'm around people that have a tendency towards this kind of thing, that are prone to showing up this kind of way, when maybe agitated or when poked or when someone disagrees with them, I'll work to keep it buried over there. And some of the ways I might do this is I'll tiptoe around people. We'll avoid saying the thing that we know will set them off, because we're like, ooh, that's going to make them angry. I don't want to be with anger, so I'm gonna keep it over there. So we tiptoe around it. We keep it buried. So we actually do both. We bury it within ourselves, and we keep it buried. We push it down, and then we avoid the situations that would drive up our anger, and we make all sorts of reasons why that's not, why that's necessary. Well, when I get angry, I become this total asshole, and it's just better that I don't do that. It's better for everyone. It's better for my family that I not put myself in those situations. So I'm just going to build my life so that I never have to go towards those situations. And of course, again, the trouble with this is it shrinks your world. Anytime you've created a story or made a decision that it's better for, or I just simply can't be with that kind of thing, you remove all of the opportunities, all of the things that life has to offer that might cause that reaction in you. You remove them completely, because your goal has now become, keep this buried. Bury it and then keep it buried. And you also remove all the people, or at least all the interactions with people that might lead to this becoming unburied, unearthed in them. So you're like, okay, I can be around this person, but I'm going to be on tiptoes. I can't be myself, etc. And the consequence of all this is that it's incredibly draining, energy consuming, and exhausting, because we're using control to keep out all these different parts of life. And we have to be vigilant to make sure that we don't catch or come into contact or bump past that point that's going to trigger someone. We have to constantly be on the lookout for, oh dear, that's starting to come into my space and I can't be with that. I've got to push that out. We have to, when we are with someone, we can't show up as ourselves, because we're managing them, because we're working to keep that stuff buried over there. And so this actually leads to a life where we're exhausted, we're exhibiting a ton of control, life feels like a lot of work, and it's just not that much fun. And it also removes adventure. It removes exploration and curiosity and play. Like a lot of these things that we think of when we think of, boy, I want to be free, I want a life that I just get to go out into the world and be myself. This is the stuff that stands in the way. Our stories, our commitments, our beliefs that I shouldn't go down that path. I shouldn't be with that sort of stuff. I can't let that kind of thing into my space, because I can't be with it, and who I become is wrong or whatever. So the the way to play with this is to look at what is it that you bury in yourself. And usually this is pretty hard because we bury stuff and then we forget that we ever had it. And then the only time it kind of comes to light is when it blasts out the side, sort of like a blast out the side right there, hit my elbow on the desk. But sort of like a volcano, you know, if you plug the top of a volcano, the lava shoots out the side. It's quite spectacular. And this is kind of the way humans are. We try to plug the natural expression of who we are, and then it fires out in poor times, misopportune times, ways that kind of get lava on people. So if you can't see it over here, look out there. Look at the stuff that you've got an incredible judgment on other people for having. Oh, wow, they show up that way. Look at the stuff that you avoid being with, either by just avoiding certain people and types of people altogether, or when you're with them, you avoid anything that might trigger this stuff. Consequently, the other thing you might do is you might poke for this kind of stuff. You might it might just be really hard for you to not antagonize this kind of thing. So either of those two things, where you notice you're kind of trying to keep people out, or you're trying to keep something buried in other people, or you have a tendency to go after and poke a certain quality in people, that same quality lies over here. And the real path to moving beyond this is to actually go and be with those people. And by be, I don't mean tiptoe around them, and I don't mean antagonize them. I mean actually just go and show up and be yourself. It doesn't matter what might happen over there. It doesn't matter that they might not like the way you naturally show up, but go and show up with those people. And that will drive your stuff up, it'll drive their stuff up, but then it'll give you an opportunity to actually move beyond that. Burying and buried. Happy holidays.